Ladies and gentlemen, what you are about to witness could be one of the greatest calls in the history of the great game of Pot Limit Omaha, and it's made by none other than legend of the PLO world and a man we've recently met. He goes by the name of the Krocodile. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this episode of PLOker Hands, a special Saturday edition. What makes this special? I'm not really sure. It's been a fun week. We've had some great podcasts with Fedor Holes and Sean Deeb, put out some PLOker hands over this past couple weeks, and today we got a great hand played between Luis Leon, King's Casino owner, and legend of the PLO world, the Krocodile. This hand takes place over at the King's Casino on the live stream. I think it was about a month ago. They're playing 100. This hand is going to be a 200, 400, and an $800 straddle on.
And here we go, 184,000 euro Tony G is in the hole for. Them black dark chips are 5,000s. So he's reloaded for 100,000. That's what it looks like. 100,000 reload for Tony.
6 call. 7 raise 4,000. 1 call, 2 call. Yeah, 4,000. 3 call, 4 call. 5 call. 6 call.
Interesting.
5 call.
All right, before we get into the hand, this is going to be one of my biggest tips I give on these PLOker hand videos. The announcer says Tony G stuck a lot of money. You can tell from his body language in his chair. He's slumped down, leaned back, looks very defeated. The look on his face, very defeated. His body language, very poor. This is what you do not want to be doing when you're playing poker in the casino or when you're playing poker online. When you get into that body position there, when you're telling yourself that you're defeated, you're not sitting up straight, you're not attentive, you're not playing your best, you're not making the best decisions. You gotta sit up fucking straight, put your shoulders back, as some guy might have said in a video, and get in the game, man. Get engaged, get in the action, pay attention. Don't do that kind of shit. Let's get to this hand. So, now Krocodile, like I said, $800 straddles on. Krocodile decides to limp in with the 9-9 fee, 5-3 with one suit. Davin's on the button, our buddy Davin, MTW Davin, legend of the online PLO world and live PLO world at this point in time. He decides to make an isolation raise with the Queen 10 7-6. You know from past PLOker hand videos, I like my Queen 10 7-6s to be double suited if I'm going to be putting money in. Davin also starts this hand up with $18,000 effectively with that $800 straddle on in a spot where he's not going to have much full equity. I'm not sure about this raise. I think if you want to play this hand, it's probably better to just call. Yeah. So Gus Hansen decides to call with Jack 8-8. I like that. We got a great hand there. Nicky Jedlicka, he calls the Ace 9 6-5 with 3 diamonds, and Leon also calls with the Ace 9 8-4 with the 9-8 of clubs. So yeah, kind of looking over the hand again. Like I said about Davin, I think that sometimes what happens with a lot of players out there is that you see a guy like Kroc who's just limp calling all sorts of hands, not folding pre-flop, and it might make you feel inclined, especially in this, you're in position, you're on the button, to maybe very much open your range up like Davin has a Queen 10 7-6. I think unfortunately is that, especially when you got a shorter stack, you're often going to go 3, 4, 5 way to the flop here because the other players realize that, hey, Kroc's playing this, he's playing any hands, Davin's probably raising a ton of 4 cards, and also these guys just don't want to fold anyway. You got Luis Leon, he's not interested in folding. Luis Leon doesn't own the casino to fold pre-flop. Obviously, he's calling Ace 9 8-4. If you're playing in a tighter game where players might fold, I like raising Queen 10 7-6. I mean, with that stack size, never mind. No, I don't. I mean, that effective when the straddle's 800 on, and yeah, I mean, right, yeah, I mean, we have a little over 20. Yeah, I don't know. Never mind. If we're like 100 big blinds, maybe, especially if we know it's often going to go heads up against the Kroc, who, I mean, he's also a passive player who he's going to be calling a lot too. So yeah, I don't know, man. I could see both sides. Honestly, Queen 10 7-6, if I know it's going to go heads up and I'm playing online, I would probably like to raise his hand. But at the same time, against better players, they're going to be attacking your isolation steals. They're going to be going multi-way post-flop to the hand. And they're oftentimes going to know that you have a wider range. Therefore, if you do make a bet when it's checked to you on the button after the flop comes down, people are going to be less inclined to want to fold and also potentially play back at you. Now we could get. I mean, I almost got into some deep scrap, but we're gonna go from there. So we see the hands, we see the flop.
We are four-way here. The Crocodile, Nicky, Leon, and the Great Dane, and
Recheck.
Kings and Jacks in the lead. Leon has the flush draw.
5 call. 6 call.
And the Crocodile has also flopped a flush draw.
3 4.
All right, flop comes down, king, king, 4 with 2 clubs. No one's really got it. No one's got a king here. 5-way, you're going to think someone has a king pretty often here. So checks to Leon. He decides to bet 16,000 into a pot of about 20,000 with his 4 and 9 high flush draw. So I don't know about that lead out. I think this lead out by him, he does block the 4 and he has the flush draw, but at the same time, I think going 5-way, it's going to be very often one of your opponents does have a king. I think that if they may have a higher flush draw, like an ace high flush draw or a queen high flush draw, some of the players might fold thinking that he might have a king. So on one hand, I mean, I don't know, 5-way, like, it's going to be very often someone has a king, and I highly doubt they're folding it here in this game. So, I mean, I don't know. Crocodile, once again, he goes ahead and calls. He's got a backdoor quad draw and a backdoor straight flush draw and an immediate flush draw. So I don't mind his call. I think that he's going to be ahead of Leon if Leon doesn't have a king. He obviously has, he can hit a 9 on the turn to potentially, you know, I mean, who am I kidding, guys? Come on. Obviously, both of these players shouldn't choose these actions here. Leon probably should just check, and then it's probably going to get checked around, or he should check fold. Crocodile should never put more money in here on the flop 5-way, especially when Leon leads out and he's, I think Nicky folds, and then he's next to act. So he's still got 2 players to act behind him. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's an easy fold. I don't got to tell you guys this. I'm sure we got a lot of great Pot Limit Omaha players out there right now. But as played, and I understand, these guys don't like to fold. They're mixing it up. Maybe Crocodile had a read on Leon that he only had a 4 and a 9 high flush draw. He decided, you know what, I'm going to put some money in the pot. I'm going to call here. Obviously, he's got that flush draw. He's a newer player. I think newer players often overvalue flush draws and flushes in general. So I can understand where he's thinking and where he's coming from here. He sees his hand. He's got that pair. He's got that flush draw. I want to put money in the pot. Now, I'm not sure if Leon has 17,000 or 37,000 behind here, because the graphic on the river that's going to show you is that he's got 37,000 behind him. So, and then after the hand, it gives Crocodile that equivalent number in his stack, and it says that's what the total pot size is. So we're going to assume he has 37,000 here going to the turn and going to the river. So let's see the turn.
Leon checking here.
Turn comes down, 3 of hearts. Both players check pretty quickly. Now, if we look at Leon's stack, it does look like, if we know the chips, it looks like he might have about 37. He might have the 37,000 instead of 17,000. So I'm actually not sure if it really changes much here going to the river, but it is relevant in terms of the graphics. Kings Casino, come on, man. Let's get your graphics game on point. Let's go. Let's see the river.
Leon with kings and 5s. Sorry, kings and 4s with an ace kicker, and the Crocodile with 9s and kings. Oh, wow. Leon's made a move here, but he might have picked the wrong customer. Leon's all in for 17,500.
So river comes down, 5 of hearts. So now Leon has just the 4 with the ace kicker. He does block the ace 2, and the flush misses for both players. Crocodile still has the 9s. He also blocks the 5 and the 3, and he's facing a decision. So Leon decides to go all in here. Now, I think if we look about this from any sort of strategic standpoint, if Leon had a king, he'd probably bet the turn. If Crocodile had a king, he'd probably bet the turn. So now Leon's probably thinking that, oh, Crocodile probably has a flush draw. So, well, he could have a 5, he could have a 4, he could have a, well, if he has a 4 and a lower kicker. I mean, Could have a straight, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I think from Leon's perspective, he's basically saying, I think that I'm going to be beat here often enough, especially if he has some sort of random 5, if he has a hand like 9-9-5-3. So I can understand where he's coming from, thinking that he has to bluff here. I don't think he's going to get the Kroc to fold a straight, though. So if you kind of think about this deeper, so he wants to bet here to get Kroc to fold a 5 or some pair, maybe 10s down, right? Jacks down, maybe queens down, something like that. He probably assumes Kroc's going to fold jacks, 10s, 9s. If he has it, maybe not queens. Probably doesn't have aces. So he can also assume that Kroc's going to bet the king on the turn. So when you think about what kind of hands that he has here that he might be trying to bluff him off, I don't necessarily know if he has to bet here. Honestly, I think that he can check and actually maybe check call, to be honest, which is a little bit crazy. But yeah, I don't think that Kroc's going to bet a 5 here. I don't always think Kroc's going to bet a straight because we've been seeing how he plays, and he sometimes just checks back straight. Sometimes doesn't even know what he has in some situations. So I don't think we're going to have to worry about the Kroc betting a hand on the river. Honestly, I don't know if he'll bet the river with any hand except a full house in this spot. I think he's going to bet a lot of those kings on the turn or raise some of the kings on the flop as well too. So when you really think about it, in a hand that, you could debatably say how much do we need to think about this hand, but I always like trying to at least figure out some sort of standpoint where somebody's coming from, because even though these plays might not be the most GTO plays, I think it's a good exercise to try to get into the head of your opponents and figure out, okay, well, where are they coming from? Where's Loose Leon coming from? Where's Crazy Kroc coming from? Because you're going to play and encounter players like these and many more players in your games. And if you build the habit up of trying to figure out what exactly they're thinking, even though in your head it might be insane, it might be crazy, but the better you are at getting inside those crazy heads, those crazy thoughts of other players, the better you are going to be at trying to figure out where they're weak at, how can they take advantage of them, and basically how to beat them for more. Because bad players are going to be making pretty big negative big blind per 100 mistakes. Now, you as a potentially okay player are going to be winning some of that money. The difference between most of you guys and me is that I'm going to win far more big blind per 100 versus these opponents on average in the long run than you are. And that's because I try to get inside the head of all my opponents, figure out what they're thinking, figure out what their tendencies are, how I best can exploit those tendencies pre-flop, post-flop, turn, river, etc., bet sizes, etc. That's because I'm trying to constantly think, how are they thinking? Why are they doing that? What lines are they taking this with? What are they playing passive with? What are they betting with? What sizes are they choosing? And now you might want to do this for all your opponents, good or bad, but against bad players specifically, this is very important to do and figure out. And I think that most people underestimate it because they think that they're beating these players for some money. They're beating them in spots. They're limp calling pre and check folding enough on the flop that they just don't think about this stuff. But you need to start thinking about it. You need to start thinking about it right now when you wrap this video up. That's what you need to start thinking about right now. Your next session, go into it with that mindset. Think about, okay, what are these players doing? Why are they doing that? What are they thinking? Try it. Let me know how it goes. Back to this hand. He goes ahead. He bets. We're going to call it 37,400. Crocodile's got a decision. He thinks about it, calls pretty quickly. Now, when you think about this hand from the Crocodile's position and when we get to the river, so we can assume that Leon's going to bet all his kings on the flop. Or, I'm sorry, on the turn. He bet the flop. We can assume he's going to bet his kings on the turn if he had trip kings. So we probably can rule out he doesn't have a king. So now we're in Crocodile spot. We got that pair of nines. I mean, he might think he's got 4 pairs in. He might think he's got 5 pairs in this hand. He might think 5 pairs is a good hand in the great game of Pot Limit Omaha. We're trying to get into his head. We're trying to figure it out. He might just think, you know what? I don't think Leon's got a king. I don't think he'd always bet a straight. I think he probably has some missed clubs that are high in his hand. He does have the 5-3 of clubs, but he doesn't have, he's got reverse blockers for the nut flush draw. He's got reverse blockers for the second nut flush draw. Also, he might think that Leon isn't going to be leading many combos of ace-2 or 6-7 on a king-4 flop, and he's more likely to lead those nut flush draw type hands. So I think Crocodile puts this together in his head, breaks it down, thinks about the ranges, and decides, you know what? I got a call here. He makes the call, takes down the pot of about...
Crocodile is going to call him. Oh, this is going to be painful. This is unbelievable call. He's called, he's only beaten a bluff, and that's what it was. This is incredible. Look at Leon's face. Look at Nicky's face. No one can believe what's going on here. If you look at the expression on these players' faces. This is absolutely incredible. And Leon fist bumps him and shakes his head. And the Crocodile has called, all he was beating was a bluff, was 17,000 euro. And he's back in the game, back in profit, the Crocodile. This is incredible. To see the faces on the players, that's incredible. There's our graphic. Leon down 60,000, reloaded for 60. Look at the big winner, 190,000. And Tony G is in the hole for the same amount.
Crocodile takes down the 127,000 euro pot, I believe. Like I said, graphics a little messed up. Crocodile at this point is winning 31,000 euro in the game. And to me, I think he's playing pretty well, man. Crocodile takes down the hand. That's going to wrap up this episode of PLOker Hands. I think I delivered some good wisdom for you to take away as you go out there and you play in your local home games or online poker or at the casino, whether you're playing Pot Limit Omaha, you're playing No Limit Hold'em. Some things to think about. That's what I got. Much love, everybody. Take care. Watch the hands.